Good evening, everyone. My name is Sharon Price. I am an author, a spiritual leader, also a teacher of grief and wellness, and I should say a coach. But give people tools and knowledge to help them through different situations in life, and especially during the holidays. So I wanted to not only offer this event tonight to participants, but I wanted to make sure we recorded it. So when there's questions, I'll leave them for the end for everybody participating. And that way I can cut off the recording at that time. If you have questions because you watched the recording, reach out via my email at authorsharonprice@gmail.com. You can also find a contact form if it's easier on the website at www.authorsharonprice.com. And you can also get to the website from www.getintothespirit.org. So again, that's the contact information. All the material I use actually comes from a book I wrote now 20 years ago called The Art of Forgiveness and Self-Healing. It is part of a series. It's a 12-week wellness program that is uh, run every 3 months in group settings through our virtual workshops or virtual studio, just like tonight. And offering this program is to help people find balance again. So it's not just about grief, it's about everyday life. So the tools and techniques and resources that you did not get growing up, you didn't get it in school, you didn't get it at home. Sometimes we got a lot of things handed down that were beliefs and myths about wellness, about grief, about other things. And I'm going to talk about some of that tonight. In calling this old and new traditions, I kind of wanted to mix things up and add some new things to my program that's been going now for 20 years so that I can give people more tools. If you have been in our program prior, if you've actually been on any of our other workshops or webinars, I always try to add something new. So I came up with a few things this week and I'm going to discuss them here. I want to start by introducing a few of the myths, and then we're going to go right into coping with grief and changes during the holidays, because that is what tonight's program is really about. And I also don't want to forget to mention that on the website, right now, there's 4 ebooks that are up. There are others that have been written, they're being edited, they have not gone up yet. But the Survivor series is free, they're downloadable PDFs. It gives you 10 tools, techniques, and coping skills to use for everyday life, especially when you're going through grief. But please access them. They all start off with the 10 tools at the front of the toolbox. But the first one is the loss of a child. And the second is loss by divorce or separation. I have loss by suicide, loss of a pet, loss of a parent. Loss of a pet is the one that's being edited right now. It has not been uploaded. I didn't realize we didn't have that on the site, so we're finishing that up this week. And there's a few others that are going to be coming out. Loss of a spouse and also loss of a sibling. And then we'll be adding others, loss of a grandparent. Those are all the books that I have had on the back burner for a while that I've wanted to work on. But anyways, the tools will work regardless. But some of the myths that you find around grief, especially things that have been said over the years, and someone said it to me this past week, so I really want to reiterate that there's no truth in this, that bad things or grief comes in threes. And so once you have one loss and you or one tragic thing happen, we're looking for the other things to come behind it. And we're not looking at the good things around us. We're looking for all the negative things. And then when 3 things do happen, we're relieved because we're through with whatever those 3 things were. But there is no truth in that. We can go through spurts in life where there's some people that have had no losses. I've had times in my life where I've had multiple losses, all very close to each other within days, weeks, and months. And then it can go for years. And then I may lose something, someone, a pet, a friendship. whatever that is, we have losses of all different types, not just loss by the loss of someone passing, but also loss by divorce and separation. All of the people connected to you and the person that you separated from, loss of health, loss of jobs, and just financial struggles, loss of finances, lose a job, get another job, maybe your resources are not the same. There's all different things that bring us emotional upset. I say it throws us off from being emotionally balanced. And we go into a lot of times a chronic stage or I should say a stage of worry, where we don't, know how to stop focusing on the negative and start focusing on the positive. But one of the things is, some of these things are taught, or I should say, all of these things that we've talked about are taught in the program. The 12-week program is about helping you stay balanced. And when life does throw you a curveball, being able to use the tools to get yourself back on course, to be able to pick yourself back up. So even though there is a huge section in the middle of the course called The Art of Forgiveness and Self-Healing, the book that talks about grief, it also helps you recover and continue to live a life to try to obtain optimum health, which is the goal of the program, but get as close to it as you can and be able to recognize when you're not doing your best for yourself and you've taken the focus off of your own life and started putting your focus on someone else's. Um, so a lot of those things are, things that people have uh, discovered in the past that this program has helped them with. But also thinking that you have to be strong. You have to actually uh, pretend to be okay when it's okay not to be okay. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to be happy. People feel guilty when they go out, especially during a birthday or uh, time of a loss, or a certain time of year where they've had a loss. And think it's that they're supposed to just stay home and mourn and grieve during that time every year, and that's not true. It's kind of like coming out of your comfort zone, doing something new because it is a new normal. And those are some of the new things I wanted to talk about tonight. But having to suck it up, having to wear a mask, having to pretend things are okay, um, does not help us heal. Being able to be real, being able to sit with your feelings, being able to process them, allowing them to come, whether they're happy or sad, but not creating an atmosphere where we're all always in sadness, knowing that if something triggers you, that you can do something different. But it's every first, I call it. This is the thing I wanted to talk about tonight that was new. There's going to be a first. If you've had loss of someone, there's going to be a first anniversary without them, a first birthday without them, a first Thanksgiving and Christmas or Hanukkah, or whatever holidays you celebrate, Valentine's Day, Easter, 4th of July. I can think of many more, and so can you. Your birthday, a wedding that comes up, all of those special occasions that happen when you are missing that person and wishing they were there are going to be what we call your first. And I'm asking you to have the courage to do those things and also bring in their memory, bring in a story about them, share something they would have enjoyed about what you're doing and the activity or the celebration, or maybe something they shared with you that you can share with someone else that may be also grieving during that time. You can be happy and sad for an occasion at the same time. There's even people that get married, and that's a great time, but it's also stressful. And if you're someone that's lived at home your whole life with your siblings, and maybe you're moving away or you're leaving the home, you're happy to be getting married and joining, your partner and starting a new life, but you're also leaving your siblings and your parents and their loved ones behind sometimes, even pets, family pets. So there can be a source of grief that goes along with that. And people don't think about all the different things that cause emotional upset or, sometimes an imbalance. But being able to find that balance is easy when we have the tools, but it's not easy when we don't have the tools. We just mimic behavior we've seen, um, you know, by other people, well-meaning people, but that doesn't mean they have the healthiest habits. And when we're trying to wear a mask and pretend everything's okay when it's not, then what we do is we escape in some way. And we use different escapes, whether that's drinking or sex or alcohol or drugs or food or electronics. There's all different ways that we escape life. And you want to participate in life or you're going to miss out on the best parts. And when we lose someone, it's really hard because, there's so many times we wish they were there to celebrate something with us or to be there if you're raising your children without your spouse or you lost one of your children and you have other children. They need you too. There's a purpose, and that's what happens. People lose their purpose. And when you lose your purpose, you lose your way. And when we lose our way, then we isolate ourselves sometimes. That is the most unhealthy way to deal with grief, is to keep yourself bottled up. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't, take time to reflect, to have time to process. But if you're doing it all the time, and you're putting on a happy face out in the world, and then you go and spend all of your spare time, your personal time alone, that's not a healthy way to deal with it. Reach out to someone, reach out and, even consider our program. If you've been dealing with grief for years, and it's not something that, you've had recent and you haven't been part of a support group. Support groups are meant for a small period of time to help people through the immediate crisis when that loss is, been recent. But what happens is it extends out over years and years where you feel like it's just happened when it was 20 years ago or 10 years ago or 5 years ago, because it wasn't dealt with properly. And so there are lots of professionals that do what I do. So you can check out the website again. There's always a link on all of our platforms that show you how to get to our site. But consider taking time to look at the 12-week program, because that's what you're going to find. That is, I'm sorry, I have a alarm that just went off to remind me of timing in here, and I apologize for that. So that being said, I want to make sure that you take the time to ask questions too. If you have them, I'll be glad to answer them. If you send over an email, if you reach out, I always want to help people, especially during the holidays. My father passed away 30 years ago at Christmas. It's 30 years this Christmas, actually. And the last day he actually, spoke and, had conversation with us was on the 25th, but he did pass away on the 28th. And it was difficult during that time, not having the coping skills that I share with other people now. And there are many, many resources in your community, and you can look in the community for those as well. I talked about first steps. So the first step is about taking the initiative to do something new on those holidays. You can have old traditions and new traditions where you may share, even it could be new friends that you met and they didn't know your spouse or they didn't know your child, but you share something special about them. There's no reason to hide what's happened in the past either. This person passed away. This time of year, I really miss them. It's really difficult without them. But I know that, I have things that I can do to make myself happy. Maybe go out and do something that you did together that you enjoyed. And if that's too painful, then go do something new that you enjoy. If your loved one was here and you were the one that was gone, I know that if I asked you, you'd want the same thing for them. And I know I do for my family. And I know the family members that I've lost would want the same for me. And I always remember that. It doesn't mean that you won't have those moments. I remember when I lost my father 30 years ago, I walked into a store for the first time to get a card for my parents that were married for many years. My mom, fortunately, is still with us, and I went to look at cards, and I realized I would never buy another card that was for mom and dad together. And that really hit me. I left the Hallmark store. I remember it, and I was in tears. That was a first. And things like that are going to happen. It's when you least expect it, but you don't want to add to it. So if you know something triggers you, then don't do it, but don't avoid it forever. I mean, I didn't stay out of Hallmark stores forever. It's just I even find myself to this day seeing, or my eyes go to where it says mom and dad, and I just take myself away from that, go to mother cards. That's going to happen. There's not anything that you're going to be able to do about that. I also went through a divorce, and I no longer can get cards for our children, that say from us or parents. That was a big change for me. These are little things that people don't think about that cause pain. You don't, that's why you don't know what someone's going through when you see somebody out and about. So always be kind, always show compassion, always be caring, because we need to give people the benefit of the doubt. If we, especially if we don't know a situation, that doesn't give someone else the right to be disrespectful to you. That's completely different subject that we're not getting into tonight. Um, but I also want to say that there are many things that you can do in their honor. Light a candle, have a special dinner in their honor. If someone's away and maybe they haven't passed, but they just can't be with you, you somehow connect with them now that we can connect through Zoom and Messenger and all different other ways free to be on video and bring them into the experience. I know during COVID when we couldn't be together, all of us as a family, especially when I had, elderly, relatives that normally would be with us at the holidays, when my children and grandchildren came for a celebration. I think it was during the second year when COVID, or maybe it was at the end of the first year when COVID had happened. We brought in Mr. and Mrs. Claus from the North Pole, but because we did that event through Zoom, we were able to include family members that were not even here in the state, that normally were not able to be with us for some of the celebrations. So there have been good things that have, come every time there is something that negative or challenging that happens, tragic, there's always goodness that comes behind it. There's always something positive. We don't always see it right away, and maybe that's because we're in our grief. Maybe it's because we're not looking far enough. Maybe because it hasn't transpired yet. But there's always something good that happens. We may not always see it. We may not always know the effects, but there's a ripple effect from everything and every situation that happens and occurs. So remember that, and remember you have a purpose. And if your purpose was caring for someone you loved at the end of life, you were a caregiver, you are going to lose your purpose if you're an empty nester and your child, is off to school, whether it's one or all or married or they've left the home. That changes, but you can start finding new interests and new things. And if you're together as a couple, you can start finding other things to do together, your date nights, things that you put off that you wanted to do because you were raising your family. There are a lot of things that you can do that are different. And don't feel like the third wheel. If somebody invites you to go out with them and they include you, then accept the gift. Um, sometimes what we fabricate is just in our mind. It's thinking that someone's feeling sorry for us, and a lot of times it's us feeling sorry for ourselves. And that is not a healthy way to look at your life, because you are important and you do have a purpose of your own. And each person was put here for a reason. And to the last breath you take, you will serve a purpose no matter what life touches yours to the very end. And I've seen it. I've worked hospice, I've worked with people and all different types of situations. I've worked other types of careers that had to do with loss, and I see it all the time. So don't be afraid, again, to do something new, to step outside of the comfort zone. And you are in a new normal whenever something shifts and changes. Even when you move homes, some people move around a lot, and that's a source of grief for them because they don't keep stability, and they don't like make connections. But again, we have ways to connect that we didn't before. When people moved around, people didn't always take the time to sit down and write a letter, but that's another tradition that you can do. You can sit down and write an old-fashioned letter. You can do a newsletter, you can send it through the mail. And one of the other things that you can do in honor of people that you lost that you loved is if you lost a child or a parent, you can give a gift in their name to someone, maybe another family that is, struggling. And if you're not, if you are, you don't have to do it in monetary value. There's ways to share your time. There's ways you can go read to children at the library. You can volunteer for organizations that have pets. You can volunteer to be in hospice and do music therapy and do things behind the scenes or with people. There's so many different ways that we can give back, and that we can fill our life with a different purpose or add joy. We're never going to replace something we lost. It's not going to happen. And that's been a big myth around grief for years. We think that if we lose something, we just run back out and get something to replace it. And it starts with animals normally when we're young, or fish, or, I always say that if someone, got a fish and they're at the carnival and, they're playing that silly game where you throw a ball in the water and the poor fish is startled and scared to death. You take it home and they usually don't live very long. And then what's going to happen? The children get upset and we want to do something to make them feel better. So typically someone goes out and buys another fish or another pet, that we just teach people. And I apologize. I think that was completely off. Um, we apologize, you know, for feeling certain ways to other people, and we're not supposed to, where we think we can replace something. Everything is unique. Everyone is unique. Every animal, every person, you're unique. So I tell people, think about it. God gave each one of us a separate fingerprint. How many millions of people in this world do you think about how unique you are, that nobody has the same fingerprint as you? That is amazing in itself. And that's how miraculous life is. Life changes. It's orchestrated in a way, and things happen that we don't quite understand. We're not always going to have all the answers. We're not always going to be able to solve all the mysteries of life. But you can live a healthy, happier life if you have these tools. The 12-week program is the answer for acquiring them. I've had people come to me that have actually taken the original course 20 years ago and said, I still use these tools today. I do myself. So I know that they do. And I know that I have had a couple of losses recently, very close losses in my own family. And it has been much different dealing with the losses that I've had recently than the losses that I had 30 years ago. And that's because I have the tools. I've acquired those tools. I not only wrote the program, but I utilize it myself. And coaching people and teaching the program helps me stay accountable as well. And then one of the other things that I wanted to say about sharing is we do letters as part of our program, and a lot of you already know that, but do letters to someone when we've had a loss. We use a journal. If there's something you want to write to them, I tell someone that lost their spouse that is really struggling, and in time this dissipates, but they want to talk to them. You want to pick up the phone and call that person. Instead, take out a journal and start a journal, and every evening when you normally would call that person, write a note to them, write a quick note, and say what you have to say. But one of the things that I came up with that was new this week, aside from the first steps, is doing a holiday letter. So what have you missed about them this year? What things have you done new that you may not have done if you were together? What things would you share with them if they were sitting here right now? And share those things in what you call the holiday letter. And whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Just write what you feel. And then not only write the letter, but read it out loud as if you're reading it to them. And then either put it in a safe place that are for your eyes only. These are not to be shared with other people. They really are personal. Or you can have a ritual where you destroy them in some way. Please don't burn down the house. But if you want to put them in the fireplace on a burning fire, or you want to just rip them up and destroy them some way so the people don't see them. If you want to keep a memory book or a scrapbook, if you want to write a card um, to the people that you would have written cards to, but you don't mail them, and then you keep them in a memory book. something that just continues to keep their memory alive. But sharing the memories you had with them is a way to do that. But sharing your new memories in the holiday letter is a really special way to be able to do a different type of letter than what we learn about just getting rid of all the emotional pain. So I think that that is it for the presentation. I'm going to open up the floor to questions. There's so much more that I can share, but if you've been to any of the other, events or the videos that we've done, I've done a lot of them. Please check out my YouTube channel. The only way I'm going to continue to do my YouTube channel in the new year 2025 is if I see an increase, because without it, it's a lot of work. There's a lot of energy put into it. I don't get paid for any of the things that I do. The YouTube channel, the videos, the one that you see tonight, I do it as an outreach program. I do it just to help people through the struggles in life, hoping just like when I needed help, when something was going on in my life, there's always someone there. I always believe that you get what you need when you need it. So hopefully my words of encouragement, my inspirational messages that I put out mostly daily during the week, but not always, several times a week at least, help you in some way. If they do, please comment, share. I have some people that do that now, and that's what encourages me to continue to do it. Because every time I say I'm going to stop doing the videos and I'm going to stop posting and just slow it down, I get somebody that reaches out to me, and it takes one person. It doesn't matter whether there's 200 people listening or 2,000 to this video or two people listening. As long as it's somebody here that it reaches, that tuned in, that's what matters. So again, I hope you have a safe and happy holiday and celebrate yourself, celebrate the ones that you lost and loved, celebrate with the ones that are still here that you love, celebrate with friends, family, neighbors, coworkers, and just enjoy yourself and don't feel guilty about doing that, but also give yourself time to grieve when you have those moments, because grief is a process that we go through when there's ups and downs, and there is no right or wrong on how to grieve or how long we grieve. We mourn together, but we grieve alone. Everybody has a special and unique relationship to each person they know. So again, my name is Sharon Price. I am an author, spiritual leader, spiritual translator, and also I offer grief and wellness coaching services. So check out my website. And again, I hope you have a fabulous holiday. Thank you again for listening. Have a great day.